How far apart should your quilting lines be? It is a very good question. Too far apart and your quilt could fall apart. We don't want that. Too close together, you get an entirely different effect. I am going to cover 3 variations in this video to give you an insight in the different looks and feels you get with different quilting distances. And in the first example, I am going to show you exactly how far apart your quilting line should be. So who am I? I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You, my lovely, are very, very welcome. Let's go and find out how far apart we should be or not to be. Does that work? Probably not. Come on. So in answer to the first question then, which is how far apart shall my quilting lines be? I think really the question is, what is the maximum apart that our quilting line should be? And the answer to that is about 3 to 4 inches. Now, a good little measure that you can use is the back of your hand. So if you're sort of going to the edges of your hand, very roughly speaking, then you should be pretty much good to go. Now, the reason why we don't want to go bigger than that is because our piecing, that's the patchwork on top of our quilt, is only held together by a small seam allowance. So we really want to help our quilt top to stay all together with the wadding or the batting and the backing layers by keeping our stitch lines relatively close enough together so that the quilt doesn't fall apart. The other reason is that if your quilting lines are too far apart, the wadding can separate and that can come apart as well. So we don't want that either. Either way, the maximum distance is about 3 to 4 inches apart, give or take. Okay, so that's the answer to question 1. However, don't go anywhere because I've got another couple of looks for you that I want to cover very quickly, because depending on how far apart your quilting lines are, changes the look and feel of your quilting. And you can see here on this one, it's quite sort of puffy in the middle. So if you want that kind of puffed up look, then wider apart. But look what happens when we start quilting those lines a little bit closer together. On this example, we've got our original square here with our 3 to 4 inches apart. And then this one here, can you see these ones are about an inch or so apart, and we start changing the look of our quilting. So you can get these little puffy pillows in between the squares, but it looks very different to this one here. It's probably the same area that I've quilted, but you get a different look because these lines are close together. So if that's the maximum, this one is not a minimum, it's just a different look. So you might want to be considering this when you are quilting, because look what happens when I get them even closer together. I'll zoom back out in a minute, but can you see here I have gone up and down and across with, it's probably about 1/4 of an inch. I was literally, if you want to copy this, the stitch length is 3.5, and I was literally going across 2 stitches and then going down across 2 stitches and going up and so on. It's really satisfying to do this and it feels really nice. However, look at it, it's really different that it's made this area recede and go back, and it's made it stiffer. If you feel that, I know you can't, but it's made this area stiffer. So that's something that you want to have a think about on your quilt, because do you want some areas of your quilt to be kind of knocked back to make other areas of your quilt to pop up? Or if you want a quilt that's all kind of snuggly and acting as a lap quilt or a bed quilt, do you really want an area that is all quilted closely together? On a wall hanging, for example, you may want to do this to make areas pop. On a bed quilt, you may not, because it's not very cozy and comfortable. It looks great, but have a think about that. If I open this up and compare and contrast, let me just see if I can zoom out a little bit. There we go. You can see the difference between these 3 are pretty much all the same area that I've quilted, but very different looks and feels. You do want to have a think about that and plan that when you are quilting. So just to recap, the answer to the question, how far apart should my quilting lines be? Maximum 3 to 4 inches. Anything underneath that, it depends on the look and feel that you want on the quilt, and ultimately what the quilt is going to be used for. Are you going for puffy, comfortable bed quilts, or are you going for something that's more decorative and can take this stiffer, closer feel? That choice, my lovely, is yours entirely to make, and it's a complete creative design choice. There's no right or wrong answer. I really hope that has helped. If it has, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I will love you and leave you for now, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.